All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another golf picks video here. Today we're looking at one of my favorite, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching, one of your favorite tournaments on tour here, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Very excited for this one. It's going to be at Bay Hill Golf Club. Still in that Florida swing. This is in Orlando. Par 72, 7,400 yards. We're going to go through the course, kind of what I think are some takeaways and some focal points of the course, obviously. We'll go through the field. I'll look at some of the top guys, but I'll also get into some of the guys that I'm thinking fit the bill for the course. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to the Guy Boston Sports site, in which I will list out all of the plays that I'm actually rolling with this weekend for free. Again, that'll be down in the pinned comment. Make sure to check it out. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4. More juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. So let's try to get a sense of what we're looking for in this course or at this course, right? So using Data Golf's course fit tool, you could see here driving distance and approach are the two sort of, radar plot points that are pulling away. So we know we want to focus on that. Around the green, not exactly all that much, but I will say these aren't the easiest of greens to hit, right? We can even look at them on the course table where it kind of ranks all of these courses. We have the last 10 years of Bay Hill here, and you could see the red numbers indicate where this course plays hard, and on the approach as well as off the tee, this thing has been very, very hard. But the specific approach numbers right here, where it's the 10th hardest course over the last 10 years on tour here, approach of over 155 yards. And if we want to take a peek at the course here, you can see the big sort of approach shot distribution points are going to be within that 126 to 176 and beyond, meaning right in that, like we just saw, above 150 range. Right now, it is also a driver hole. Players that are 10 to 25 yards shorter than average do lose about 1.7 strokes gained per round. And if you do hit it further than average, 20 yards longer than average, you're picking up a couple strokes gained per round, but you do obviously want to be accurate. I would say it's more of an approach accuracy sort of focal type course if we're going to focus on something than a driving one. But even up here, you can see fairway and regulation, right? This is over the last 3 years, 56.8 in terms of this course, fairways and regulation, compared to the tour average at just under 60. So obviously, this course, you are hitting a few less fairways. I would say the biggest thing, like I already mentioned, right? You're looking at this, the greens and regulation, a lot of tough approach shots and a lot of necessary approach shots on this course. Approach is kind of the name of the game, and that's what we'll look at today. But you can see 57.2 in terms of hitting greens in regulation compared to the tour average of nearly 66. So that is a big thing to note. Less birdies per round, almost a full more bogey per round. Par threes, kind of right on par there. Same thing with par fours, and then par fives, obviously not play a little bit harder, I should say, than some tour average. So if we look at the last, again, 3 years here, we can kind of see where these guys finished. We have it filtered by finishing position over the last 3 years, right? So it's gone Scotty, Kurt Kitayama, and Scotty. I hate seeing Kurt Kitayama because that was one of the guys that we've liked like 3 times this year, and he has just absolutely boned us over and over again. If we had a DNB graveyard for golf, Kurt Kitayama is getting damn close to being on that. But we can kind of start to get a sense now. When you look at the top, 3 positions, obviously we're going to see a lot of green. Green means more strokes gained. Red means more strokes lost, right? As we start to scroll down into, more top 10, top 15, we do see some red start to show up around the green, in the putting category, even off the tee a little bit. So that kind of further validates the idea of our focus really is going to be a lot of approach in this one. We already talked about where the approach is coming from, right? In that long approach. And it's validated over here as well. You can see really hard for approach, but we have 6 years in a row where this is a top 5 difficulty course in terms of approaches, 150 plus. So obviously something we're going to be focusing on here. But yeah, I would say if I had to rank these, I'm looking at approach, off the tee, around the green, and then putting. putting a lot of the time, will come with great approach shots, especially on a course like this. And by the way, green size, medium, green grass, Bermuda, chipping grass, overseed, and then the rough grass is rye and bluegrass. So let's go ahead and dive into a few of the top names in the field. And we have this right now filtered by the shortest odds, right? Scotty, Rory, Ludwig, and Xander, and we'll also look at Morikawa. So right here, we have Scotty Scheffler. We do have a few events from him so far this year, and he's been playing okay. I mean, it's tough to say what Scotty's been doing because his expectations are just so high, right? If you don't see a 1 next to his finishing position, you almost think it's a letdown. But 2 top 10s, 1 top 25 there as well. Waste Management, AT&T, and Genesis. If we look at him at this course, I mean, he lights this thing up, right? Look at him in his approach off the tee, his strokes gained tee to green. Even his putting has been a little wacky, yet he's still finished, his worst finish in the last 4 years here, T15, and that was 4 years ago. So damn, Scotty probably is a pretty decent look again this week, but the hard part is, plus 320, like where do you find the value in that, right? It's very, very hard. Now, his driving accuracy hasn't been all that great. We're only looking at the last 5 rounds. I looked at a really small sample size for some of these metrics here, so take them with a grain of salt, I would say. But again, he obviously is going to drive it, well. Accuracy's been a little bit off, but the more and more sample size, we can bump this out to 15. You can see the accuracy moves up, right? The bigger sample size we have on Scotty, we're going to see obviously more and more accuracy. The more game you can account for with him, the better it will look. He's been that good, right? So Scotty's obviously a play, like I think that it's worth considering. That said, is the value there? It's really, at least for me, it's been really hard to actually put my money behind Scotty because it's either win or bust with him at this point. But he's won it in 2 of the last 3 years. And the time he did in T4 when Kitayama won it. So sure, I guess you can make the argument for him. Out of the top 5 guys that we're going to look at, he's probably my second favorite, which kind of bumps him out of the running of rolling with, because if he's not my favorite, then there's no way I'm paying, plus 320 for an outright. Next, we'll look at Rory, who, he's got some obviously decent rounds here, looked untouchable at the AT&T. So far this year, we've seen him at AT&T and Genesis. Both times he's looked pretty good off the tee, which is really important for him, kind of his superpower, right? The approach doesn't necessarily worry me. I think that he can lock this in, but it's not exactly the best story, right? Especially given the fact that from that deeper distance, right, 176 and beyond, it looks like he is kind of losing some strokes, especially when he misses the fairway. That said, his greens and regulation number is great. Driving accuracy and all that, not all that great. Ball speed, we know he's going to be a far hitter. That's going to pay its dividends. In fact, actually, before we kind of look at that, let's look at him at this. So he's played it plenty of times, and he has a hell of a lot of success off the green. And then even, I would say, overall on the approach, like a T21, obviously that's not all that great, but T21, when you lost nearly 4.5 strokes in the most, at least in my opinion, important category, still could be justifiable as a good performance for him. But you could see here, realistically, it's kind of a mixed bag in the later rounds. But overall, again, a lot of green, not all that bad of a look from Rory. In terms of what we're going to be seeing from him, though, yeah, he's going to get the distance. Obviously, the accuracy looks terrible here. We bump this out. The accuracy is going to jump a little bit. But Rory's Rory. Like, we don't have too much to say about him. We kind of know what to expect, right? If the driver's hot, he has a leg up on the competition. If he does get going around the green or in the approach, then Rory's a pretty unbeatable player. And we want to look at this plus 750. Like, honestly, he might be someone that I take a peek at more than Scotty just because it's double the odds, right? Like, that's tough to say. I'm not saying I would do that necessarily, but price-wise, like, at least this is starting to make a little bit more sense. And again, he does have some damn good history at this course. The next 2 guys we're going to look at, one of them is definitely probably my favorite kind of horse this week in terms of a favorite. It's not Oberg here. Now, he obviously looked really good at the Genesis. Great closing round from him as well, at least from the approach standpoint. Ball striking tee to green, right? But even if we filter through with all the rounds, like, he played really well. Look at that round 2. Kind of greened out across the board, right? Same thing with him. When we have these small sample sizes, the driving accuracy, I'm telling you guys, don't pay attention to that. We're showing, or not that much, we're showing this to really get a gauge of the driving distance, right? Like, if we bump it out to the last 25 rounds, you can see accuracy still not all that tremendous, but this is a guy that hits it long and straight. I'm not all that worried about him here. It's more about having those second shots, which we know him, his ball striking is going to be very, very good, right? I mean, take a peek at this. Ball striking green. These are his last few rounds. Ball striking really great. To close out last year, ball striking was good. In terms of this course, though, can't sit here and say it's all that great, but T24, T25 in, weeks in which he was losing a lot of, strokes where it mattered. If he doesn't, if these are even net zeros, I imagine what these T25s and T24s could be, right? So he's definitely someone I don't mind, but the next one we're going to talk about is Xander, and this is going to be the guy that I really do like. We'll start with how he's played at this course. Mixed bag, to be honest, but the last 2 years here, he has gained around the green, which sure is a good thing to note, but we're really looking at the approach and him finishing T25 when, again, having a terrible approach week, 2.2 down. I mean, he pretty much across the board, if I remember correctly. Yeah, other than round 4, he made up some ground, had a really bad approach week. That's not really what we're looking for, right? If he does kind of step up and look at this, take a peek. Last 5 rounds, he's gaining some strokes in those bigger categories. We want to look at, say, the last 25 rounds to maybe give a bigger sample size. He's gaining some strokes in those categories, driving the ball about 15 yards past tour average. So I do like Xander, and we'll get into a little bit more why when we get to our custom model, because it kind of digs deeper into him as a player. The last sort of favorite that we'll talk about is Collin Morikawa. I have no gripes with Collin Morikawa, especially given the fact that I do think that he's going to, put the ball in the fairway and also have those long approach. Like when we look at ball striking, Collin Morikawa is tremendous, right? So it's like if he's going to have those opportunities, he might seize them and take advantage of them. One concern is right here. Look at the last 4 years of him at this course. Nothing great, right? T64, cut, sure, 2020, he had a T9 finish, but look at that. He gained nearly 11 strokes in the approach. He hasn't come close to that in the other 3 years. So I like Morikawa this week. Again, Xander's probably the guy at sort of the top of the odds, or at least the odds-on favorites that I like the most. Now, let's go through this, and I kind of want to walk you through the model we have here. Taking a peek at what we put in here. Off the tee, 12% weight. Approach to the green, and then approach from the longer 175 to 225 bucket, we have as 50%. So this model is so heavy on the approach. Obviously, I'll tinker for the next couple days. So again, keep an eye on the pinned comment to see the final plays. But we really went heavy into, the approach and even bogey avoidance in this one. If we refer back here, right, you can see bogeys per round. There's almost, 3.3 compared to 2.6. A lot more bogeys. If you can avoid those, you're going to be sitting pretty well on this leaderboard. So those are kind of the things that we looked at. Around the green still factored in there, because if you miss the green, we want guys that can, get up and get down and that type of thing. Putting, maybe I'm a dummy for this one, but I have weighted pretty low just because I think putting is going to come second and play second fiddle to getting there in 2. So let's take a peek at this. Like I said, this is now ranked by the model in terms of, what players fit the bill. And look at Xander. The reason we have him out of those 5 guys we talked about as what I would consider my favorite, on the approach, right? 7th and 1st, bogey avoidance 1st, sure, strokes gained putting. I just said I don't care about it, but ain't that bad to see that there, right? So I love the idea of Xander being the number 1 guy here, at least in terms of rankings, from the approach range of 175 to 225, and then we even just threw at you the bogey avoidance, number 1 guy there as well. Lucas Glover was someone that I was considering. I'll tell you why I didn't, because, cut last week, we actually did roll with him, right? What do you have him? We either had him in a, I think we had him top 40. Cut, and then look at his course history. Clearly not a guy that plays Bay Hill well. So, yes, some of these model numbers in his last, I think we have it last 30 rounds, kind of make him look like a good candidate. This is just too much for me to swallow, to be completely honest. Justin Thomas, I think we can probably star Justin Thomas for now, put him on our list, just because he's the number 1 in strokes gained on the approach. Around the green, if he does miss, great. Putting, like I said, I'm not weighing too much. And then bogey avoidance, looking pretty good. The next ones I'm kind of liking, especially because of recent form. Maverick McNeely, great from that long range, right? Michael Kim, look at this. T2 at Waste Management. Genesis, T13. Mexico Open, T13. And then T6 last week here. You got to love him, right? So I'm liking Michael Kim as well. Probably going to be like a top 30 option for us, but at some point I wonder if this gas runs out and he's due for a bad week. It's just how it works, right? So yeah, I do like Michael Kim. I think he could fit this course fairly well. Do I worry a little bit about the longer approach? Sure, but there's been a couple courses in here that are really approach heavy, and he's been pretty damn good at it, right? So yeah, Michael Kim is going to kind of make the cut in terms of consideration for my plays. Maybe he makes the cut in general. Hideki Matsuyama was someone that I considered, but it almost looks like he doesn't do anything stellar. I wouldn't be surprised to have some sort of, touching pause, but touching of Hideki in some sort of matchup plays or maybe in a make the cut parlay or something. I could definitely see that. JJ Spawn, someone that made us some money last week. T2 at the Cognizant, right? The approach, and that was something that we looked at last week too, the approach numbers here are phenomenal. 7th in the approach of 175 to 225, 5th overall, and then bogey avoidance, he checks that box as well. So those are some of the top guys on the model. Those are the ones that I have starred as of right now, but let's see if we can kind of filter through a couple of these and add a few more. So if we just look at bogey avoidance, and what I'm doing now is trying to dig up some guys of consideration that we may not normally see, right? So I'm going to filter to bogey avoidance and then see if there's anyone else. Like, for example, I'm filtered, top bogey avoidance guy first, and then if anyone else has some really good numbers here across the board, we can star them, which is kind of what we did to find some of these guys, right? But for example, Hideki, like we said, he's someone that you might like overall. Okay, bogey avoidance, sure. JJ Spawn, this is one we already have him starred though. 14th, but then look at this deep green on the approach. That's why we liked him. Let's focus on this long approach now and see if we missed anybody. This is an interesting one. Isaiah Salinda. I think we've seen, does he have a different name in some places as well? That could be wrong there. He's played okay 2 tournaments in a row. Obviously, you're going to get a good price for him. Does he have history here? No history here. That makes sense. This looks like it could be a decent look, right? Accurate, long, gains a decent amount of strokes here, hits greens in regulation. All right, here's one that maybe we picked up here. Now, the bogey avoidance, that's going to be tough to swallow, but off the tee and approach from this distance looks pretty damn good. So we'll consider some Salinda there as well. Maybe Daniel Berger. He kind of burned us last week, but he's been playing some good golf. Do we have history from him at this course? That would be interesting to note here. Let's see. 2019 is his fall, man, and he did not look all that great. But again, this is a Daniel Berger that's coming back from injury and I think is going to look better and better the more we see him. So, you know what? Let's give Daniel Berger some love there as well. All right, last but not least, we'll go to approach and see if anyone that we've missed. Hideki keeps popping up, huh? Tommy Fleetwood considering, sure. I guess this might be it. We have a pretty short list of favorites here. Now, that's not to say we can't go outside of this in terms of our matchup plays, which our matchup plays have been great. It's our tournament finishes that we've kind of been lacking on. But I think JT, JJ Spawn, in fact, let's just filter this by outright so we could see the top names at the top. Xander, JT, Maverick McNeely, Daniel Berger, Michael Kim, JJ Spawn, and Isaiah Salinda kind of looking like the guys we like this week because they do sort of fit the bill. Let's take a peek at Bet the Numbers just model that they make and see what we have here, if we have any guys that kind of match that. Okay, so all the guys that we have look pretty good there as well. They have Scotty ranked a little bit better. Hideki, Lucas Glover, Morikawa, obviously someone we talked about as well. Maverick, that's an interesting. Max McGreevy and Brian Campbell. All right, I don't think they fit it enough. What about anyone that has some good course history? We didn't really take a peek at that. Let's check that out on ours. And again, guys, we're playing around. We're going to keep, this is last year's model, interestingly enough. Where are we at? 2025, where are you at? Is this last year's model? This might be the one we just put together, isn't it? It is. All right, so it's saved over it. But what we're trying to do here, again, is kind of show you the process. I said that in last week's video. It might be a little bit longer. I'm going through the model a little bit more, but I feel like with these golf videos, I think it's good to kind of share a little bit of the process because it's such a different betting sport, right? But here we can see Will Zalatoris, some good numbers there. Now we're looking for guys that have, some green in here, but then also check the box, like Justin Thomas. If we hadn't had him starred, we'd probably pick up on him. He's got really good course history and some decent form, and he's got greens, number one guy in the approach. That's kind of the thing we're looking for here, which I don't see many guys jumping out as of right now. Here's one, maybe Victor Hovland. We rode with him a couple weeks back, not all that much. Okay, so I think for now, this is kind of what we're looking at. Let's overwrite this. Because it is 2025 now. Boom. All right, guys. That is going to wrap it up for this video. Again, those are the guys that we're considering. Xander, JT, McNeely, Michael Kim, JJ Spawn, Daniel Berger, and Salinda. Wouldn't say that we're tied to those guys, like totally. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. Take you to the site. If we have any matchups or anything like that, we may throw those in there. And obviously, if I like those, they kind of fit some of the bill here in terms of what we go through, but we still have a couple days to be able to tinker with this model and everything like that. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.